PFF, thoughts on them, overall like or dislike for them. So now we said that we're going to continue this because PFF keeps dropping rankings, and they had dropped one prior to the wide receiver, or excuse me, prior to the safety rankings, where they had the wide receiver position group rankings. And I said, we got to talk about this because I don't know if it's just me. Maybe I'm biased, but unfortunately, I did not agree with the ranking that they gave our Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver group.
You want me to list them off?
First off, let's start with the Steelers ranking. Let's start with that first.
We're ranked 18th out of 32.
18th out of 32. Okay.
So bottom half, actually.
Yeah, absolutely bottom half. So if you could read off the first 17 teams that they have listed in front of us, we will greatly discuss this because I need to know. And while you're doing that, I'm going to put this in the chat. Okay?
All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
What's your question?
Well, I'm putting in the chat, or the Steelers wide receiver group, the 18th best in the league.
Okay. Number 1, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Number 2, Dallas Cowboys. Number 3, Kansas City Chiefs. Number 4, Buffalo Bills. Number 5, Minnesota Vikings. Number 6, Denver Broncos. Number 7, San Francisco 49ers. Number 8, Los Angeles Rams. Number 9, Miami Dolphins. Number 10, Seattle Seahawks. Number 11, New York Giants. Number 12, Cincinnati Bengals. Number 13, Cleveland Browns. Number 14, Green Bay Packers. Number 15, the Los Angeles Chargers. 16, Atlanta Falcons. They actually assumed Julio was going to be off the roster when they made this.
They put Atlanta in front with no Julio?
Yep. It says right at the top, note, for this exercise, we have assumed that Julio Jones gets traded ahead of the 2021 campaign. They just don't have this specific team, so Titans are pretty low on this list. 17 is Arizona Cardinals, then 18, Pittsburgh Steelers.
That's wow. I am thoroughly not impressed by that list.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
That's atrocious.
Whenever you look at it, here's what I took a step back. Whenever you look at the list initially and go through all the teams they have ahead of us, you're like, you know what? Yeah, a lot of these teams have pretty good receivers. Make some
cases for you.
But then if you actually deep dive into it, this is actually blasphemous in my opinion.
I looked at how they started changing the list from wide receivers to wide receiver and tight ends. You saw that when they started talking Kansas City and
I think that's what they did. I think they included them. Yeah,
I'm like, but even with that,
I know
the way that they talked about Eric Ebron, I'm like, we know he's flawed, but some of these guys that they exactly, I'm like, some of these guys that they had ahead of him, I'm like, you got to stop this, man. And even with Deontay, like they talked about Deontay's drops, but then say he could be one of the best in the league at this. And you're like, and you have these guys that low? Like, I don't understand it. We're gonna keep getting into it, but we had a little color come up real quick, and it kind of goes for it will go with this. So either way, we're good.
It's not about sacrifice.
Correct. It's no sacrifice. No sacrifice. We're off that topic right now. All right, that'd be a bonus content day one. We might do a separate segment on that, and we'll put that in the upper room. That'd be for the upper room people. They'll get that special deep dive into Marvel and Gamora and what is true sacrifice. You know what, that low key actually funny thing. I've been thinking about stuff like this too.
Movie reviews.
Yeah. But like with you though.
Me?
Yeah, like so serious. Because I like the bounce, like some of the stuff I like doing by myself, right?
Yeah.
Because it's cool to just be able to talk, no interruptions, give what I want to give, and just stop it at that. But with movies, it's art, right? Movies, music, different plays, like it's all subjective. So I do like to be able, because it's not a hard winner of, oh, this is definitely better than this. It's not like a sport where, hey, points lead. Okay, he has more points than him. That's the winner. So with this type of stuff, I always like to bounce it off and have candid conversation. So I'm planning on us doing some stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how I want to work that in. But Joel Hernandez, first off, appreciate your love and support. What Joel says is this: would you guys ever do fan call-ins, like a segment, give people maybe 30 seconds to a minute for their thoughts? So Joel, we actually, funny thing, we started doing that before we started doing live shows.
Yeah.
Anybody that followed, was that 2 years ago when we did that then now?
Yeah, it was the 2019 off season. Yeah.
So what we started doing, we would have fans call into this number. They could either text, call, leave a voicemail, leave their social media handle, and they would literally say whatever their comment was about the game or their question, and we would play it. We would play the audio through the podcast, and then we would actually respond to their questions directly. So that is something that we've looked into because we still have the phone lines and stuff like that. We're just working on the technology element of it because now that we're doing live shows, technology, logistics wise, it's a little bit different, along with when we did it beforehand, we could screen the calls because the calls would come in one day. We got a chance to go through, make sure nothing crazy is being said. Right now, as it's live, we don't have that luxury. So even in the comment section, you notice how a lot of times when you're watching the video, my head's looking down because I got to make sure that I'm reading the good comments before I come up here and just say something outlandish verbatim for what y'all have been saying in here. So that's the other part of it. But once we get the logistics, everything worked out, we do want to get back to having calls because it just is another element to bring us closer to you guys and vice versa. We love to hear from y'all. We love to feel like we're all part of this thing together. So once we get that technology worked out, man, we definitely got you. But yeah,
that'd be fun.
It would be, man. But back to these rankings, man. So I think we both said that this ranking is absolutely terrible,
yeah.
Man.
Yeah, how'd you want to start? Do you want to just say where you think the Steelers should be?
Put it like this, rough estimate, man. I feel like they got to be bare minimum top 10. When I think of the teams that are in here, and this isn't, I'm just like Tampa. Yes, Tampa is legitimate.
Number one, yeah, I agree. I'm good with the top five. Like, if you want to talk about order, I'd knock the Chiefs down a little bit. But like the top five's fine. I mean, we're gonna get into like our actual rankings later, probably in like a couple months or so. But top five, cool. If you want to have them over the Steelers, I'm not gonna argue it.
See, for me, top four, I was 100% good with. Five is kind of where
you don't like Vikings.
No. The only thing is this: I feel like the Vikings have the star power, but the Vikings to me remind me of Cleveland in terms of not team wise, but Cleveland receiver group. We talk about they get heightened because of Odell and Jarvis. Then we see as you start to go through it, though, it drops off. When I think of Minnesota, Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, absolutely, they are studs. We know this. Like Thielen's been doing it for a while in the league, and Justin Jefferson came in here and set the league on fire, right? So with that, I feel like those two are better than any wide receivers that we have. But I feel like we have the better depth in terms of our receiving core. That's how they want to word it, right? Instead of just being wide receiver, we'll just say receivers. I feel like our core is better. We have more depth. We have way more talent in terms of just the full, okay, we don't have just the top two guys. We got 1 through 5, and then we got 2 tight ends. Like that is why I was like, I could make a little bit of a debate.
Unless they're really banking on Irv Smith Jr. balling out this year.
But I'm really banking on Pat Freiermuth balling
out
this year. So what are we talking about?
Ebron maybe lessening the drops a little bit. Deontay taking the next step. I agree with you.
And they said it. Deontay's not going to have 14 drops again. Like, that's not happening. So
it shouldn't.
Yeah. But then like teams like Denver, I feel like that's more potential based, but none of those guys are proving anything. What is Cortland Sutton proving? What is Jerry Jeudy?
He did have a Pro Bowl year, but for him to be hurt last year like that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what going into this season right here, what are these are it's a lot of speculation. It's a lot of projecting with those guys, and obviously they should have that type of respect because of where they were drafted at. But
Noah Fant
Noah Fant is a dog.
He's good, but I'm with you.
We saw how that worked. But I just feel like we have the proven productivity. I think that's the difference. When it's proven commodities along with the age element, star power, we check all those boxes. So to say that we're at 18, my goodness, San Fran.
No,
like how? Like we love George Kittle. He's a baller. We know that. But Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, they
lost Kendrick Bourne.
Like, come on, man.
I think that he went to the Patriots, right?
And then you got the Rams at 8. Now Robert Woods, that's my guy. You know, anytime I get my young guys out here doing, he's not even young anymore. Now he's in the league for a minute. But anytime guys like him are doing it, Cooper Kupp,
they signed Deshaun Jackson. They have some nice depth. But they don't have the upside.
But even with Deshaun Jackson, he's been hurt the past 2-3 seasons now. We talk about Julio being hurt. D-Jax is like, when D-Jax is healthy, we know who D-Jax is. He's an absolute monster. I love his game. Big fan of him. But at this stage of his career, do you over or under 10 games is he playing next year? Like that's the real question. Under, right? So you're not going to tell me that you're rating a guy that's going to play more than likely less than 10 games as a key part of this wide receiver group and why they're so much 10 slots better? Like not just 1 or 2, 10. They're at 8. We're at 18.
So their tight end one's Tyler Higbee, which a lot of people are high on.
Yeah.
Last year, 521, 5 touchdowns. Ebron, 550, 5 touchdowns. That's with the drops. So like if you want to say, oh, it's because they have that third receiver with Deshaun Jackson, they have Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, who probably Cooper Kupp, he had that really good season 2 years ago.
Yeah, and then he got hurt, and then he came back and was good.
Yeah, so I just don't think there's the upside with them too. Like we know what we're gonna get. We're gonna get like low 1,000-yard receiving season from them, maybe single-digit touchdowns. With our guys, that's the baseline. That was last year with us being disappointed. There was still productivity.
Think about that. That's disappointed. That's no running game. That was with questions surrounding the quarterback, like the coordinator. It was a lot going on with that. And like you said, that was bare minimum. And with drops, league leading drops. Like I can't.
Dolphins kind of sneaky though.
No, Dolphins all right. Dolphins gonna be straight. Dolphins, they've put together since that tank season. They put together a nice little squad down there.
I just don't believe in Tua enough for the receivers to have gaudy numbers. Will Fuller, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Parker. Like that's loaded, and Gesicki's really good.
Gesicki's really good.
I still put Steelers above them though.
He's been having success. Yeah, a little Penn Stater, right? And then the Seattle Seahawks, Deke, Tyler Lockett. Okay, but this goes back to that conversation that we had about what's the difference between Seahawks versus Cleveland versus Minnesota. They have 2 dominant receivers. Or really, I feel like DK is more of the dominant, whereas Lockett is a beast in his own right, but it's just different, his game, right? I don't know if it's the stature or whatever, but it's different, right? In terms of just the threat of him. But I still take our group over that. Yeah. I feel like we have a DK and Chase Claypool. I feel like we have a Tyler Lockett and Deontay. They don't have a James Washington. They definitely don't have a Juju.
No, and our tight ends are much better. Yeah. They did draft Wayne Eskridge, but he's a rookie. So.
And the guy, was it Gerald Everett, right? Came over from the Rams. He's down there. But I'm still taking Ebron over him. I still like Pat Frymouth.
Yeah, he had 417 yards last year. Nothing crazy. I think for the Seahawks, the Vikings, even the Browns, I would put Seahawks and Vikings over the Browns, like a tier above them in terms of like their top 2 receivers. Yeah. Especially with Odell getting hurt, and I think Jarvis is a little bit limited. But whenever you're comparing Seahawks and Vikings to the Steelers, I think that just comes down to personal preference. Like, do you want those top 2 guys that have already proven that they could be like top 10 receivers in the league? Or are you banking on the Steelers receivers doing that? Which I think both of us are. I think at least 1 or 2 of them are going to take that type of step next year.
I agree. New York Giants.
But then we have that depth. That you're talking about.
But I can get that part, what you're saying about the Seahawks.
If you want to say Vikings, you want to say Seahawks, those are 2 stud receivers.
I was like, I can even see, I can get that. But here's why I have another issue.
But there's so many other teams that have above
the New York
Giants. Blasphemous.
The New York Giants. Kenny Galladay. Darius Slayton. Now, we know Darius Slayton was good. I mean, he kind of jumped on the scene versus us and then kept that going. And then obviously Kadarius Toney right out of Florida. And then at tight end, was it Evan Ingram?
Yeah. He didn't live up to the hype.
He didn't. Kadarius Toney, rookie. That's going to be interesting.
They brought in Kyle Rudolph too. Yeah. It's an interesting thing they got going, but
but I don't feel like that group is better.
No. Us on a down year, what we considered last year was a down year.
Yeah, man.
Was more productive than this.
Bro,
I know they brought in Kenny Galladay, but I'm talking about the Giants receiving core as a whole.
But think about this: when Kenny Galladay went there, right? Wasn't a lot of talk of, okay, would you rather have, if you're the Giants, would you rather have signed Kenny Galladay to that contract, or would you rather have brought in Juju Smith-Schuster? That's a legitimate conversation.
And Juju, based off last year, receiving yard wise, he was our third guy. He had more receptions than anyone. I think he had 9 touchdowns. So all depends on what you're looking for. I mean, I'm definitely putting us over the Giants though, for sure.
Gosh.
Bengals, they got a nice receiving core.
No, we like the Bengals.
No tight ends though.
Yeah, but I feel like them bringing in Jamar Chase, that made the receivers, the wide receivers especially, man, just super gaudy.
Would you put us over the Bengals?
No. But I told you that last year though. I tell you last year and this year, man. I like their wide receiver group last year when it was AJ Green, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins. Now you take old AJ Green out and you enter in Jamar Chase, who was arguably better than Justin Jefferson at LSU. That's different. I like our tight ends. I feel like we have that part.
They got nothing at tight end.
But those 3 right there, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd, that that could be a little special right there.
What's interesting though, and this isn't to like knock your point or anything, but it just goes to show that I think that people are really underrating the Steelers receivers. Like T. Higgins, a lot of people are really high on him. He still had 908 yards, 6 touchdowns. Tyler Boyd, 841, 4 touchdowns. Now they were missing Joe Burrow, but like all of our receivers, and this was a stat I looked up. This is something, dude, I'm telling you. I did amazing analytical research for this one. The Steelers receivers. Now anyone can fact check this for me too. Okay. But I think I'm like 100% right on this.
All right.
The Steelers receivers are the only receiving core group that have 3 players that have at least 800 yards and 7 touchdowns for each of those players.
I like it.
Which is crazy. Like
no
other receiving core in the NFL has that. Yeah. So for us to be ranked 18th when you consider that stat, now I'm not saying it's the best stat of all time because it's still 800 yards and 7 touchdowns. There's a lot of receivers that have more than that. But to go from 1 to 3 and have that, that's pretty solid on a down year, like we said.
Like I said, I'm not knocking it. I think that they should be higher. I just think that the Bengals group should be up there as well.
This isn't anything against your Bengals squad.
Right. That's all I'm saying. Yeah.
Because who knows? Yeah, Jamar Chase is probably have more potential than any of our guys right now.
I feel like Bengals are low. Like Bengals at 12. What's the difference between Bengals and that conversation we just had about their productivity versus what we're projecting on them and the Denver Broncos? What's the difference, really? Cortland Sutton. We said, all right, he had a year. Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler, they haven't produced that just yet, right? We talked about Jerry at the time too, man, with the drops. He was on the Deontay thing.
Yeah, he had a decent season.
But he had 12 drops on, was it? I forgot how many targets he had, but he had 12 drops. Obviously, Deontay had 14. So I'm just like, seeing that high.
Yeah, that's the one that I really didn't get to have him at 6. Them and the 49ers, they should be dropped down.
Like, I feel like you can move Cincinnati up. Cincinnati should be up, but we should be up as well. That's my thing, man.
Yeah, sure.
Like, I feel like both, even though I don't like to, give them any type of positivity, I just feel like, I'm just not a fan of it, man. Nah.
I wouldn't be opposed to putting them in the top 10. Browns, I think they're too high, too. Like, Odell coming off the injury like that. Jarvis Landry. 840 yards last year. I mean, we know he's a good receiver, but where's the upside?
Right.
We still were more productive than their top 2.
Right.
Rashard Higgins is pretty good, but still, he's not Juju at our 3rd spot.
Right. And they don't have
Austin Hooper. Austin Hooper's good, but he had 435 yards and 4 touchdowns last year. As much as we rip on Ebron, that's more productive than Austin Hooper.
Yep.
So I'm putting us over the Browns too.
So let's go to the chat real quick. Let's see what they're saying about this, man. About this list. Call Me K says we are at least top 10. I think at worst top 7. Can make a case for that.
Yeah, I'm thinking 6 or 7. That's what I think.
Steeler Nation 412 says they're 13th. Cole Fitzsimmons says easily top 5 in his opinion.
13th was so specific.
Yeah, it's very specific, right? Very, very specific. Justin Mitchell says at least top 10. I'm seeing a lot of top 10s. Brian Castro says top 10, and I'm being humble. Destin versus the world, top 10. Tavian Chancellor says so disrespectfully in terms of how they have us ranked at number 18. Unreal. Roger says we're like 10, maybe 11. And then Destin also says it's a young group, so they aren't confident in them, but we know with the shades on the emoji. But my thing is this, when I think of that, and that's what I try to play devil's advocate, right? Because I feel like I border that biasness at times because I played here, then obviously we cover the team. But I'm like, if we're just talking about this is a projection, he's young. Well, what is the difference when you're talking about Denver? What's the difference when you're talking about San Francisco? Like, that's the part that I don't see that.
However you want to evaluate it. We talked about this with Minka. However you want to evaluate it, whether it's based off potential, whether it's based off production last year. A lot of these dudes,
age, like what do we?
A lot of these dudes that they have ranked high though haven't even been in the league that long, so we can't really go off career body of work because a lot of these receivers are young. It seems like they're going a lot more based off that potential, but the Steelers have just as much potential, if not better, than any of these teams they got ahead of us.
No.
But we had more productivity last year on a down year, which we were kind of disappointed at the end of the season.
And then check this out. Call Me K says, and if we're going to factor in tight ends as well, then we got to be top 3. Along with who else? I'm pulling them up right now. Oh, here we go. And Donald Copeland, he was the other one. He says easily top 10. But he was like, he's like, yeah, easily top 10, and we have 2 fire tight ends. I'm like, I agree. Like, if we're gonna bring in the tight end conversation as well,
might have had the best tight end in the draft, huh?
Hey, you've heard the answers. What do they say now? The best pure tight end, the best all around tight end. That's how they word it now. Versus Kyle Pitts is number 1 tight end.
They honestly might be playing Kyle Pitts at receiver with them losing Julio.
Absolutely, man.
And there was a big drop off between them 2 and all the other tight ends in this draft. So, yeah, Freiermuth, he's going to be good, man. He's going to be good.
Yeah, bro.
So, I'm good with 6 or 7. I was telling you, if you want to put the Seahawks maybe at 6 and then us at 7, I could leave the Vikings at 5 for now. Like, I think around there is good. Mm-hmm. We'll look into it a little bit more. But, 6, I could put them over the Seahawks. I want to say my bias, but
they're definitely in that top 10 legitimate. Like, that's my thing. That's bare minimum, worst case. Big Twink Demand says we top 5 in AFC. I like that. I can go with that. I'm trying to think AFC because you got obviously Buffalo's are going to be up there. Kansas City's going to be up there.
Yeah, we're probably 3. Like, if you have the Bengals over them, that's still top 4.
It's still top 4. No, and you can make a legitimate case even with Cincy. You know what I mean? Like, that's my thing. It's not clear cut like that. I mean, you're asking me today, I've taken Cincy. You asked me,
especially when you consider the tight ends.
It's like a lot to go into with the tight ends being factored in. So yeah,
I'd kind of secretly put Dolphins in that for the AFC, like in that top 5.
They are, but
I think I would. I don't trust Tua though. That's
my thing. It's Tua. That's the quarterback situation. Also, Alex Smith says, hit the like button, Steeler Nation. Now, why did I say it like that? Because he has it in all caps with a lot of exclamation points. So I tried to, reciprocate that energy to the people as I read his comments. So please don't let Alex get mad with anyone. Alex Smith, make sure y'all people are hitting the like button for him, man. All right, it's that simple. You heard what he said. Respect what he said. All right,
definitely.
He ain't gonna say it again. Otherwise, he's gonna ask not nicely next time.
Yeah,
you don't want to make the boss man mad. That ain't good for business.
Yeah, it's just disappointing, man. It's just a little disappointing.
And then Destin versus the world simply says this. NFL just hates us with the crying emoji. Love it with the cheesing emoji. Prove it season with the flexing emoji. I like it, man. Keep that Big Ben energy. That's that Big Deke energy right there, man. We need that, baby.
Yeah, we definitely do.
That.
I'd actually put your Bills above the Chiefs, though. I'd knock the Chiefs maybe down to 4 or 5.
Yeah. No, I feel like, man, the Bills group, man, with them being able to add Emmanuel Sanders along with Gabriel Davis being in there another year, along with Diggs being there another year, plus full offseason, might I add you.
Cole Beasley.
Absolutely. Like, That's
I'd probably bump that. I bumped the Chiefs down to like 4 or 5.
Yeah. Chiefs, they're 2 top end. We know Tyreek and Kelsey.
Like I think Hardman could have a really he's gonna have to be their number 2 with them losing Watkins.
Now,
and he could be a stud. Yeah. So they're gonna be fine. I think that receiver 2, receiver 3 is kind of like interchangeable. You could find a guy as long as you're fast, talented,
and they went and redid the whole old line too.
Yeah,
they say we tired of making sure the paint look good. We about to go fix this interior up. So now that that's good, should be interesting again, man.
Yeah, so we both agree. Top 10 at least. Where you rank them? I'm saying like 6, 7.
Yep.
And you're probably around that same range.
Absolutely,
too. Yeah.